Biblical financial principles guide us towards faithful stewardship, financial freedom, and long-term prosperity. If we handle money God's way, He blesses our efforts and positions us to live abundantly. Hi, I'm Justin Buonamo, and this is Wisdom is Wealth. Wisdom is Wealth is designed to give you guys practical insights, modern strategies, and even timeless philosophies around gaining wisdom in your life. The wiser we get, the wealthier we will become. This podcast really is inspired by the book of Proverbs in the Bible, which was written by King Solomon, who prayed to God for wisdom and as a byproduct became the wealthiest person to ever live. If he was still alive today in present day, he'd be worth $1.3 trillion with a T. Not because he prayed for wealth, but he prayed to God to give him wisdom. And as he grew wiser, as a byproduct, he grew wealthier, particularly financially, but not just stopping there, in every facet of his life. And in my own life, I have realized that the wealthier I become, it's truthfully just because I have become wiser in life. I'm gonna bring on guests that are incredibly successful, incredibly amazing human beings, and have an amazing financial wealth that they've grown for themselves. And they're gonna share wisdom on their life experience in totality in hopes that something becomes valuable for you to implement in your process, in your life, and in your journey, and see how wisdom truthfully is wealth. Welcome back to another episode of Wisdom is Wealth. I'm really excited to dive into today's topic because I'm really enjoying over the past year or so, particularly over the past couple of months, becoming the guy who teaches you how to manage your money in a way that aligns with biblical principles, honors God in the process, and without all of that outdated, restrictive type of feeling that finances usually brings on people. And so I think we live in a world right now where people either idolize money, which the Bible definitely says is wrong. God does not want that happening. God doesn't want us idolizing anything except for Him, right? And so it just so happens that a lot of times the idol that is swapped for God here on earth, a very common swap is with money, and we put God or money on the pedestal instead of God, right? But at the same time, the Bible also doesn't say sit around and do nothing. And so I think we live in a world where we're either idolizing money, or we're doing too much, or B, we're just neglecting our money. We're ignoring it, out of sight, out of mind. And both of those definitely are not what God is calling us to do when it comes to our money. And so today what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over 10 biblical principles that will help you understand how God truthfully wants us to look at money, manage money, and steward our money to the best of our ability. And again, it's not by idolizing it, and it's also not by ignoring and neglecting and having the out of sight, out of mind mentality. So where's that happy medium? What does God truthfully want us to do with money? And so the first concept to understand is that God owns it all, right? Everything belongs to God, and we're just stewards of His resources. You guys have heard me utilize the word steward or stewardship multiple times, and all it means is just manager. Right? We are called to be managers of God's resources, and not even just money, everything in life, our marriage, our health, our body, our relationships, our relationship with Him. And so I kind of see it as a plant, right? God gives us things like money, like our marriage, like our relationships, like our health, like our body, right? Just to name a few. It's like a plant. He gives it to us, and He expects us to take care of it in a way that when we go to give it back to Him one day, it's in better shape than when He initially gave it to us, specifically with money. And so let me read a piece of scripture, Psalm 24:1, which says, "The earth is the Lord's and everything in it, the world and all who live in it." And so what that's saying is that everything is God's, particularly our money. We're just managers of God's money. And when it comes to application of this biblical principle, I want us to think about manage money as if you are handling it on God's behalf, not just for yourself. So to be a good steward of your money, there's a lot that goes into it, but I always ask myself, how would I handle this money if it was on God's behalf, which it is? So how should I handle this money? Right? And I always say, when it comes to my money or really anything I'm doing in life, I'm performing for an audience of one, and that audience of one is God. So first biblical principle, God owns it all. And we have to ask ourselves, how can we manage these resources, particularly our money, to the best of our ability? Like that plant. He gave us that plant. Is it going to be flourishing when you hand it back to Him one day, or dead? Right? It's just something to think about as we wrap up that first biblical principle. The second one is work hard and be diligent. All right? And so God blesses hard work and diligence, not laziness. What I want to do really quickly, though, is offer a swap for the word hard in the word hard work. Right? And call it intentional work, right? I have a friend who uses intentional work instead of hard work, right? Intentional work is productive, it's efficient, it's aligned, it's what God's really calling us to do. Not just working hard to work hard, not just working hard to be busy, not just working hard to feel like we're accomplishing something, but instead working intentionally, right? And so working intentionally and being diligent. If you listen to Proverbs 14:23, all hard work brings a profit, but mere talk leads only to poverty. And so whether you use the word hard and intentional, whatever, we have to play our part. We have to put in the work, right? And we have to be diligent with that work. And so that's how we play our part. We have to ask ourselves, what is God calling me to do? Right? For example, God wasn't going to show up and shoot this podcast for me, was he? Right? And so that's how I'm intentionally utilizing my time, intentionally working hard on my messages, on my podcast, on my business, on my client work, right? On the things that I'm called to do. I work extremely hard on, extremely diligent on, extremely intentional with. And then when you do that, you allow God to be able to bless that diligence. I love the quote. You've probably heard me say it multiple times. Opportunity and blessings follow obedience. And so application here with this is be disciplined in your career, business, and finances. Work with integrity and excellence, and that will be rewarded, right? That'll be rewarded. And so that's biblical principle number 2. Work hard and diligent, especially when it comes to your finances, right? Work hard and be diligent and intentional with the way that you're managing your money. Biblical principle number 3, spend less than you earn. I know it's a very common one, but the principle is like living below your means creates financial freedom, right? Eventually. And I think at least at first, financial peace and financial control. I kind of see it as we have to create financial control to then create financial peace to then create financial progress, which leads to financial freedom. All right. And so Proverbs 21:20 says, the wise store up choice food and olive oil, but fools gulp theirs down. So application here with this is create a budget. Right? The only way that you're going to really truthfully know if you're spending more than you're making is if you're tracking your money by budgeting, right? Coming up with a plan. All budget is a plan on when your money's coming in and where it's going and how much is left over and what's being done with the leftover money. And we need leftover money in the first place, and that comes when you start to spend less than you're making. And when you spend less than you're making, you're not digging yourself a hole. And if anything, you're starting to accumulate and grow resources to ultimately help you make that progress and create that freedom that we want with our money. All right, then reduce unnecessary expenses. Trust me, I like to spend my money, right? I like to have a good time. I like to treat myself and other people every once in a while. But I'm making sure that I'm making financial progress first. I'm making wise money moves first. And then also I don't have unnecessary expenses. And so most times when you're not measuring your money, you're spending money unnecessarily so many different ways, right? Again, I'm not against living your life and spending a little bit of money, but being ignorant to that money and then also having a better use of that money than unnecessary expenses is where it starts to become problematic, right? And then save consistently, even if it's a freaking dollar, right? Make sure we're saving something consistently, right? And when you have a budget and you're tracking consistently and you have goals set aside, you can be intentional with the amount of money that you want to save each month. And so I always say be intentional with your income and your savings goals. And so when you have goals like building an emergency fund, buying a house, paying down debt, investing in the stock market, starting a business, investing in your business, right? That allows you to then be intentional with the amount of money that you want to save each month to go towards those goals. And the last thing here is track your progress. So yes, you could celebrate wins, but you can actually see what's going on after you set the goals, after you set the budget. I know a lot of people that make mistakes and they're just set a budget right at the beginning of the month, at the beginning of the year, and they're not actually tracking as time goes on. So they've got no idea where they stand with that budget. All right, and so these are some things that'll help you spend less than you earn, which is the third biblical principle here today. The fourth one being avoid bad debt and be wise with borrowing. And so the principle here is that debt creates financial bondage, so avoid it when possible. I'm going to read my Proverbs here, and then I'll kind of go into the application side of things. Proverbs 22:7 says, the rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is the slave to the lender. The application is to limit debt to only what is necessary and manageable, like a mortgage and a car payment, and avoid consumer debt and excessive loans. And here's where I think my teaching will be helpful when it comes to not all debt is bad. There's a difference between good debt and bad debt. Bad debt is buying things that you don't need with money that you don't have on a high interest rate with no plan on how to pay it off. Good debt is leveraging other people's money at no cost or a low cost to increase your value, your opportunities, and your wealth. And so, bad debt would be credit card debt. Going to the mall, right? It's when you have bills due, don't have the foundations laid with your finances, aren't making a ton of progress, if any at all. And then we're going and buying things that we don't need with no plan on how to pay that money off at a really high interest rate. I would avoid that, right? I would avoid loans and as well for things that we truthfully don't need that aren't bringing us closer to God, right? And so good debt, give you an example, a very simple one would be a mortgage, right? Allowing you to invest in an appreciating asset that will make you money over the long haul, right? And also too, I always tell people, even if interest rates are high, right, on homes, if you have to have a home, you have to have a roof over your head. So that means you're going to be paying for monthly living expenses, whether that's rent or a mortgage, right? Rent is 100% interest. When you move out of a rental property, you've got nothing to show for it, right? Not the same case for a mortgage. Maybe a topic for a different day, going into the nuances of the financial benefits around, having a home, a primary mortgage, and whatnot. The point being is that's just a simple example of a good piece of debt. More so talking to some of the business owners listening to this. If you've taken out a business loan or a business line of credit to invest into a coach, a consultant, a mentor, right? And you've made a ton of money or a spiritual or emotional return on investment that you feel massively outweighs the price that you paid, right? Then that line of credit, that credit card, that business loan was good debt. It increased your value, your opportunities, and your wealth. Just a few examples there, right? Avoid bad debt and unnecessary borrowing. And at the same time, realize that not all debt is bad. Leverage good debt when appropriate. All right, number 5, give generously and tithe. The principle is giving as an act of faith and worship that opens the door for God's blessings. And the verse I have here to relate to this principle is Malachi 3:10. Bring the whole tithe into the storehouse and see if I will not throw open the floodgates of heaven. Application here. Give joyfully, whether tithing, offerings, or helping those in need. The one thing I want to share here that I think is authentic or feels authentic to share around this topic is the idea around tithing, right? And there's only one thing in the entire Bible that God says to test him on, and that's tithing. Otherwise, it's literally blasphemy to test God. But God literally says in the Bible, test me on this. Literally in Malachi 3:10, bring the whole tithe in the storehouse and see if I will not throw open the floodgates of heaven. He's saying, test me with this. Go and try tithing and watch what I do. Right? And so tithing is giving a tenth or more of your income each month to the church or a ministry that you truthfully feel God is calling you to give to. And tithing should be the first tenth, the first of the month, right? The first of your money, right? Because that's a tithe, right? A lot of times people think that it's logical to wait to the end of the month. Let me see what I have left over and then I'll tithe, right? But that's not a tithe, that's a tip. God doesn't want your leftovers, he wants your first, right? And so sometimes, though it's logical sometimes to wait to the end of the month, one of my favorite quotes is, most times things that are logical aren't always biblical. And so that's my feelings on tithing. I've struggled with it over the years. And what I did was I just prayed to God. God, show me what you want me to know about tithing. Help me understand how this betters the kingdom. Help me utilize this in my life. Help me tithe. Help me be faithful in what you're calling me to do. And that's a prayer he loves to answer. All right. So that's biblical principle number 5. Give generously and tithe. Being generous, right, a lot of times is an ATM. Right? Yes, for money to come back to you, but also from a bunch of other areas in your life where you can grow wealth in, just that purpose and that fulfillment. Right? But while I say that though, giving out of people pleasing and giving to save people, usually isn't high quality giving. Right? Saving people doesn't save people, and giving to people please kind of negates the purpose in totality. And so pray on that. Pray on that one. That's one thing I want you to walk away with today, is to pray on what God's calling you to do around tithing and giving. All right, number 6, halfway there. Save and invest for the future. Wise financial planning prevents future hardship. The majority of people's hardship could have been avoided by just planning well, being wise, thinking about the future, and avoiding immediate gratification. And so the Proverbs 13:11 says, wealth gained hastily will dwindle, but whoever gathers little by little will increase it. So application here is just save consistently and invest for long-term growth rather than seeking quick riches. Don't get me wrong, there are opportunities to build wealth faster than some other traditional ways, or there are opportunities to build wealth that are faster than other options in comparison. But at the same time, get rich quick schemes and thinking things are going to happen overnight are foolish. Play the long game. Right, play the long game. Not to say that you can't have faster results than the average person. Right, things won't come faster to you than other people. Right, I'm not here to determine ETAs. That's God's job. Right, but what I can say though is that when you play the long game, understand the time is going to pass either way. It's our decision how we want to utilize it, and always do something your future self is going to thank you for. Right, it starts to help you understand how you can save and invest and think for the future, while also being able to enjoy yourself in the present. Beautiful balance. All right. Biblical principle number 7, build generational wealth. I tell people all the time, I don't want you to be wealthy for 5 years, 10 years, even 30 years. I want you to be wealthy for generations to come. And so I think people that build generational wealth do it on a strong foundation of financial literacy and wisdom. And so a wise steward plans for their children and beyond. And Proverbs 13:22, I love this piece of scripture, says, a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. An application here would be set up financial systems like investments, insurances, and businesses, trust. I said insurance policies, but just things. It's called estate planning, right? You want to start estate planning so that you pass on generational wealth to your children's children. And this is something that Laura, my wife, and I are really working on right now. We're working with an estate lawyer to put in a will, to put in a trust, to put in insurances, to put in investments, and to put in buy-sell agreements. All these amazing things that make sure we not only create wealth now, but pass it on for generations to come. One thing outside of that, though, right? You could do all of those things and pass on generational wealth, which is great numerically, but I want you to pass them on mentally, emotionally, spiritually, wisdom-wise. Teach your kids how to be good stewards of money, how to budget, save, invest, right? Don't damage them emotionally, right? Help them become emotionally sound and confident around money, not fearful of money, right? I don't want them to have negative trauma around money, negative energies around money. Like, shoot, I don't even care if you leave them any money, right? Leave them with these practicalities, this energy, this conditioning, right, around money that's healthy and abundant, and that's way more than any money you can leave, right? But leave them both. That's the beautiful thing. We live in an and world, not an or world. You can leave them a good relationship with money and a lot of money, all right? Biblical principle number 8, maybe one of the most important ones here, be honest and act with integrity. God blesses those who handle money with integrity. And a big part of that is how you earn money as well. And so Proverbs 11:1 says, the Lord detests dishonest scales, but accurate weights find favor with him. And so application for this is run your business, your job, and your finances ethically, never cutting corners or being deceitful, right? Everybody listening to this podcast, I know you're a good person. And I know with that, you get physical feelings, right? When it comes to decisions, something feels right or it feels off. Follow that physical feeling that is God speaking to you, trying to nudge you to go the right direction. And when it comes to your finances, whether it's earning, investing, saving, whatever that may be, the decision is going to come with a physical feeling. Go with what feels right, with what feels expansive, right? It's going to feel off if it is off. Trust that feeling, right? And so act with integrity, because even if you do make a quick buck by being deceitful, acting out of integrity, God sees that. He knows your motives. He's going to correct that, and you're going to lose 10 times more than you gained. All right? Last couple here. Number 9, be content and trust God's provision. Contentment is key, not complacency. Contentment is key. If you truthfully want to be free, right, contentment is key. I know a lot of people that have, by numerically, are financially free, but they don't have contentment in their heart and a beautiful relationship with God, and they're actually not free. They're more chained than they have ever been. All right? And so money is a tool, but not the source of our security. Or another way I like to put this is money is a great tool, but a terrible God. And 1 Timothy 6:6 says, godliness with contentment is great gain, right? Godliness with contentment is great gain. Being a good person rooted in God, and you have contentment for what he has given you, but at the same time, know that, you're called for greater. There might be more out there, but you don't need that to be content. You don't need that to be present. You don't need that to live a beautiful life. But at the same point though, if you keep playing your part and it's part of God's plan for you, more things will happen, right? So when you can learn to be content, it's key. Being content in what you have right now, but at the same time working for more in a godly manner. Key. All right, so pursue financial success, but don't let money control your heart. Trust God for your needs. God provides. That's be content and trust God's provision, right? Be content part we covered. Trust God's provision. God provides. God provides. And the more you can trust that, the more you can let it happen, the more you'll see it happen, the stronger your faith will build, the deeper the blessings will be. Last one here, seek wise counsel. Please. Please. Right? There's so many resources and people out there that can help you manage your money the right way, help you perceive money the right way, and help you build a beautiful relationship with money. But at the same time, there is way more terrible sources than there are quality sources. There's way more terrible counsel than there is quality counsel, and we have to be aware of that because that's so dangerous. I made a post recently about people can only be trusted with their opinion on something as far as the success that they've had with it. And there's a lot of people out there giving indirect or direct advice around money that, just don't have the success on paper or the success emotionally or spiritually with money that they should be giving advice, that we should be taking that advice. And unfortunately, a lot of people are influenced by people that are not the best counsel when it comes to money. So financial wisdom comes from seeking godly advice. So go to the Bible and scripture first. Go to godly people that have a really good financial situation to then also seek advice. In Proverbs 15:22 says, plans fail for a lack of counsel, but with many advisors, they succeed. And application is learned from mentors, financial coaches, and wise believers from making major money decisions. Go to God first, right? Then go to wise believers. And I know I'm a little bit biased, right? And I hope this comes off the right way, but I truthfully believe that I can be one of those, and I am that wise believer and can be it for you, right? And want to be that through this podcast, through my businesses, and through the content that I'm creating. And as I said in the beginning of this, when this episode started, I'm really enjoying answering my calling of being that guy who teaches you how to manage your money aligned with biblical principles that honors God in the process and without all that outdated, restricted type of feeling that finances usually brings on people. And today, I wanted this episode to be an opportunity to be just that. And so I hope these 10 biblical principles really helped you today. I hope you're at least taking one away, right, that you're going to apply, and it's going to have impact on you and your finances and the people around you as well. And so the bottom line here is biblical financial principles guide us towards faithful stewardship, financial freedom, and long-term prosperity. If we handle money God's way, He blesses our efforts and positions us to live abundantly. So go live abundantly. The choice is yours. I love y'all. As always, like, share, subscribe. And if you know somebody that would benefit from this episode, please share this with them. And we'll see you in the next episode of Wisdom is Wealth.